Welcome back to the Sideline Sorcerers. We are back in full capacity with my fellow sorcerer here today, ready to break down week 3 and the upcoming week 4, make all of our bets, predictions, all that good stuff of the NFL season. We're already like a fifth of the way through it.
Yes, yes, sir. Thank you. Glad to be back. Sorry I had to miss last week. Had a crazy week going on, but the magic did not falter as you still had a winning week overall. So thank you for locking down the fort for us.
Yeah, no, of course. I had to. I was like, oh, do I do an episode? But I was like, it's in my body. Like it just my
Yeah,
bones were telling me like I had to. Like I needed to document all of my thoughts on the NFL season thus
I
far.
love that.
So yeah, let's dive right on in with recapping week 3 of the season here. I went 10-6, bringing my total to 28-20. You were 8-8, so you're 26-22 now. Thursday night football was New England at the Jets. I was able to catch some of this game, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers looked really good. And honestly, there were some throws that could have been made that his
hmm
receivers dropped or he was slightly off. So he could have even had a better game, had a couple more items connected. And it just goes to show the Jets, they could be legit this year. Aaron Rodgers looked like vintage Aaron Rodgers. The first two
hmm
games, not as much. This game, yeah, he looked really solid. They threw the ball a lot more than I thought they would. Patriots are finally starting to look like what I thought they were going to all offseason. Just not a good football team. Offensively, super challenged, and that just bleeds into the defense in the sense that, you know, can't hold up every single drive when you're not putting 8 points up on the board.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this was an abysmal outing for Brissett. I mean, he didn't even have 100 yards passing. Um, just a terrible performance. Drake May even comes in there too and he's got 22 yards. So just a really bad day for the Patriots. And yeah, that's exactly what we expected in the offseason.
Yeah.
Braylon Allen, though, emerging as a threat out of the Jets backfield, dude. Wasn't expecting him to have such a presence with Brees there. Really felt like Brees would be the workhorse. I mean, he kind of still is, but Braylon still had 11 touches. I mean, double digit carries
Yeah.
for him. I mean, he's in starting territory in fantasy leagues right now.
Yeah, no, it's wild to see some of these rookie running backs do so well, like
hmm
Bucky Irving for Tampa
Yep.
as well,
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
really well. But yeah, I mean, it's just dangerous in terms of the Jets. They got two really strong running backs so far.
hmm
We obviously know what their receiving core can do. Alan Lazard looking really good through the first 3 games here. I think he already has 3 touchdowns through 3 games. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think, the Jets defense comes along a little bit in this game. The offense came along a lot. So they could really be a threat. I mean, Buffalo looks awesome as
Agreed.
well, but I think that'll be a good showdown up there in the AFC East.
Yes, sir.
So then you have Giants at Cleveland. And as much I wanted to pick the Giants so bad in this game, I'm pretty sure in the offseason when I made our picks, I did pick them to win. And this is exactly what I thought the Giants would be all year. Like a pretty decent team. They can beat bad teams even on the road. Like a Cleveland team that's very deficient at quarterback. Daniel Jones played elite. He was throwing for almost 10 yards a clip, had a couple touchdowns, no turnovers. Last 2 games, he's played really well. And that's exactly how I thought the Giants would kind of click this year. Obviously, they weren't able to connect, those first 2 games. I mean, they really should have won against the Commanders last week, but yeah, the Vikings are a lot better than we thought. So, getting blown out week 1 by the Vikings, I guess, is not that bad. I mean, we just saw them blow out the Texans. But yeah, I mean, good for the
hmm
Giants. Hopefully they can continue it through the rest of the year. But I mean, Cleveland they're going to be probably a sub 500 team this year. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson experiment not working out. He had a couple
Yeah.
touchdowns and all that, but I mean, it's just not enough and not efficient enough. Turnovers are still there. So, yeah.
Yeah, Cleveland's not looking good. Had much higher expectations for them. I think I had like said in the offseason that I would predict them to be like 9-7, and certainly don't feel that way after watching them play lately. A couple guys just to call out. Malik Neighbors, bro. He's looking
He's really
nuts.
good. Yeah. He's got like 3 red zone touchdowns already. It's wild.
That's awesome for him. So
Yeah.
excited. A lot of talent there on the Giants. And Amari Cooper kind of made a resurgence
Yeah,
after
he
not
finally
doing
went off.
anything. Yeah, two-ton game for him, but he didn't do anything the past few weeks. And now I think he's like injured.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so
so
too.
kind of a, I don't know, kind of a rough outing
Yeah.
for him at the end of the day to have such a good game and then get injured. But yeah,
Yeah, it sucked. I started him the first 2 weeks in fantasy. He did nothing. I started him or I bench him the third week and then he goes
right.
off. Just like, of course.
Yeah. So of course your luck lately.
Philadelphia, yeah, Philadelphia at New Orleans really probably went the opposite way anyone was expecting. Very low scoring, ugly game,
Mm-hmm.
despite Jalen Hurts. I believe he threw for over 300 yards still. So a lot of offensive yards in this game from the Eagles, but didn't really translate to points. Think they went for it on a fourth down or two, didn't get it. Obviously, that contributed to it. But yeah, I mean, I figured the Saints' reign had to kind of fizzle a little bit. I mean, they still won this game. They're still competitive in this game. But when you put up 40 plus points in two of the first games of the season, against the Cowboys, especially, like that can't be sustainable. So as much as I like the Saints this year, this was a game that I just felt like it was just not for them to win. And it was an impressive win by the Eagles, without AJ Brown. And I think
Mm-hmm.
they could be in trouble next week because I know Devontae Smith is also hurt now. So they really need AJ Brown to be back.
Yeah. Kind of a surgical selection for you here, though, picking Philly. I certainly didn't see it going that way. And with as high as you were on New Orleans, bro, like I'm really surprised that you sniped them to not win this game. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I got to know my bounds. I mean, I did pick them to lose against Dallas the week
Yeah.
prior as well. But I mean, I think they could still win 10, 11 games and lose some
Hmm.
of these ones here, the tougher
Right.
schedule. I mean, they have an easy schedule looking forward. They get the Panthers twice, they get the Bucks twice, who may not be that good. They get the Falcons twice. They get all the second place winners from all the divisions. So, you'll see
Hmm.
them face. No, they'll get Green Bay again. They'll get the Rams, obviously. So some tougher games in there, but I think
Right.
it's very, very manageable, especially seeing the Rams are all banged up, and Green Bay may not be. I mean, who knows? They look really good so far, but we'll see how that all pans out. But yeah, I mean, I think the division is just theirs to lose. I mean, they got way better of a overall squad in my opinion than any
Hmm.
other team in that division. I think we kind of saw that this week with the Bucks stumbling.
Yeah.
All right, Denver. Yeah, speaking of the Bucks. Oh wait, let's go back to Houston at
Minnesota.
Minnesota real quick here. Don't want to get ahead of myself. Yeah, I mean, I was shocked. I cannot believe. I am just baffled that Minnesota has been so good. One of the teams I thought would be the worst in the league. Sam
Yep.
Darnold's been playing out of his mind. 4 touchdown passes in this game. I believe he did have an interception, but doesn't matter when you're throwing 4 touchdown passes and you're up by like 30 points. Really surprised to see the Texans struggle so much in this spot. I mean, I thought they'd at least be competitive in this game, but it was really never close from the jump. And yeah, just good for Minnesota. Just one of those teams. I mean, I just can't. I have no words for it.
Hmm.
Supposed to maybe start JJ McCarthy, gets hurt. Now it's Sam Darnold. Oh no, that can't possibly be good. But now somehow you're 3-0. Sam Darnold has 8 touchdown passes. He leads the entire league. Just absolutely wild, but good for them. I mean, they definitely, I feel like, are bound to make the playoffs at this point. I do feel like their reign, like New Orleans, will kind of come to a fizzle. They'll kind of fade away for maybe a week or two, but they look to be a really strong team and definitely a playoff contender.
Yeah, certainly a contender, but I would not go so far as to say they'd be a lock to make the playoffs. But I will agree with you. Sam Darnold has been playing out of his mind, bro. He's practically in MVP conversations at this point. It's
Yeah,
absurd. Bro, could you ever have imagined saying the words that just came out of my mouth like
no, I
4 weeks
know.
ago?
Yeah,
Sam
I mean
Darnold?
it's wild. I mean, I know he does have Justin Jefferson. He's got a lot of good
Yeah.
weapons, but still, though, I mean, we saw Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall struggle with the exact same
Hmm.
team last year. I'm just
Yeah.
surprised. I'm just absolutely baffled how
Me
well the
too.
Vikings have done. But hey, you gotta hand
Downright
it to
bum
him.
fuzzled, bro.
Fran bombled, if you will.
Bum fuzzled is the new word of the day, though. That's what you are.
Bumfuzzled. All right.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, I mean,
completely spooked.
I
It's
do
astonishing.
feel I do feel like that. That's very accurate to describe my
Yeah,
current state of emotions right now.
I would agree. It's yeah, that would definitely capture it. Feels like Justin Jefferson might have been like the best pick in the first round so
Yeah.
far. Like that's crazy because last year he was the number one overall pick and no one seemed to be as happy
No.
with his performance. And this year,
Yeah.
you know, McCaffrey on IR, you've got Tyreek with no one to throw to him. Cowboys aren't as good as you know people like them to be. CD's not necessarily living up to standards. Yet Jefferson with Sam Darnold is the pick of the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you sometimes just gotta be consistent. Like eventually, I mean, Justin Jefferson's gotta be the best receiver in the league. So,
Yeah.
McCaffrey's always been injury prone. So I know
Hmm.
Justin Jefferson was injured last year for a little bit, but hey, like that would not be a crazy number one pick still.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, the fact that, yeah, Tyreek, CD, Christian McCaffrey, Justin Jefferson might have outscored, all three of those guys in 1 week combined. Trying like this past week, you combine Hill and CDs. I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
I think he did because I think Tyreek only had like 5 points and I think CD only had like six maybe.
Yeah, love
So
it. Love the
yeah,
chaos.
yeah.
All right, Denver at Tampa Bay. It's another one of those where it's just like a team that's looked so good through 2 weeks has to kind of come back down to earth. This is the definition of a trap game here. Denver just, 0-2, desperate for a win. Bo Nix still's not throwing the touchdown pass, but he's been running pretty efficiently. He did throw the ball decently well in this game. And yeah, those issues we saw with Tampa early on kind of coming to a head with the offensive line just absolutely crumbling. And I think Baker Mayfield was sacked 7 times in this game.
That's brutal for Baker, bro.
Yeah.
He's not used to getting hit that much. Definitely surprised to see the Bucks fall short here. Um, I think you called it exactly that it's more of a trap game, but Chris Godwin, bro, he's still cooking. He's like wide receiver one in the league right now. He's just a lock for a touchdown like every week. He's putting up some really high fantasy numbers, and I don't think anyone really expected it. Mike Evans always seemed to be the favorite on that
Yeah.
team in previous years, and now seems to be the clear favorite and just still continuing to produce at really high levels.
Yeah, I think he'll continue throughout the rest of the season, but they gotta sure up the offensive line if Baker's gonna have any time to throw.
That's a must, bro.
Yeah,
Baker can't be getting sacked seven
no.
times.
Yeah, they really squandered an opportunity to go 3-0 here. A really good
Yeah,
opportunity at home against the Broncos. But
agreed.
Green Bay at Tennessee, another game I was really surprised about. Like Tennessee, they're not going to go 0-3, surely. Like they're not that bad. They're not as bad as some of these other teams that we've seen, like who are even getting wins, like the Panthers or
Hmm.
New England, who almost went 2-1. Obviously, the Vikings, all that, but yeah, maybe they are that bad. Will Levis just continually turning the ball over and giving up these games. I think he had 3 turnovers in this game, 2 picks and a fumble. I think he probably has 6 or 7 turnovers on the year so far. And yeah, I mean, Malik Willis revenge game came to fruition. He's looked really good for Green Bay, and that's another big surprise to me because he really struggled to throw the ball the time that we saw him play in Tennessee. And now, I mean, he's running all over teams. I said last week, the Green Bay center's puking all over the ball, and the Colts still can't score more than 10 points.
Yeah.
It's really impressive what Green Bay's doing. And I'm honestly surprised at this point that they didn't win week 1 against the Eagles. I really thought, damn, you lose that game, which was very winnable. Now you don't have Jordan Love, and you're still playing decent teams.
Hmm.
And now they 2-1. That's crazy to me. But good for them. I think they're
It
getting
is.
Jordan Love back this week, so now they should be able to continue the cruise.
Yes, sir. Thoughts to add on this game. So Titans 0-3 puts them in company with the Bengals. I know we're gonna not get to that until later on when we discuss the Monday night game, but
Yeah.
of all the teams in the NFL, and only two of them are 0-3, and one of them is the Bengals. like they're in company with the Titans here. And I mean, I think that Titans were pretty bad in the offseason. I think you were a little bit more optimistic on them than I was. But I think that your love of the Titans came from the love of Tannehill for so
Yeah.
many
Oh yeah.
years.
Yeah. I don't
And
really give a rat's ass about the Titans anymore.
yeah, not anymore. But yeah, Will Levis has got to figure out what he's doing
Yeah, we
back
both
there,
had them
bro.
at 3-14 actually, so that's looking pretty good right now.
I would agree. Yeah, 3-14 is actually absurdly bad.
Yeah,
But
I don't have them winning the first game until like week 6 at home against the Colts, which I'm kind of
wow,
behind that pick. I like that, although they could win this week at Miami, just considering the Miami quarterback situation.
yeah, definitely a possibility, but not very high on the Titans for the rest of the year here.
Yeah, absolutely not. All right, next up we had Chicago at the Colts. This is just Anthony Richardson does not look good. He's turning the ball over, and yet they still won just because of how offensively challenged the Bears were, despite
Hmm.
Caleb Williams throwing for 372 yards or whatever it was. So just a weird game in the sense that the Bears offense started clicking toward the end, but it was a little too late at that point, and the Colts were able to run all over the Bears. Anthony Richardson, like I said, struggling passing wise, but hey, I mean, when you play the Bears, it's okay. No worries at all. You could turn the ball over two, three, 4 times and still probably win by like a touchdown. So, yeah, I just think the Bears offensively, yeah, they need help. They need to get an offensive head coach in there to help Caleb Williams develop. I'm happy he looked better, but he still turned the ball over a couple times. And yeah, I mean, it's a little, yeah, treacherous over there in Chicago right now. And I'm feeling really good about my 7-10 pick or whatever I ended up having them for the end of the year, just because, yeah, so many people are way higher on the Bears going into the season. I'm like, you got to temper those expectations. Like, they're still going to be severely offensively challenged. The
Hmm.
offensive line's not great. And Andre Swift has not lived up to really a fraction of what he did over in Philadelphia last year.
No, I mean you're totally right, bro. And you're speaking to me when you're saying you should have tempered those expectations because I was definitely one of those people. I kind of like hopped on the train a little bit. I was like, bro, this is like the best the Bears lineup has ever looked on paper in a really long time. Like they've got Swift now, they've got Keenan Allen, they've got Rome, like, and they got the number one QB. Like they're gonna be nice
Right.
this year, and they're not. They don't. I think you
Yeah.
captured it best. You said they don't live up to expectations, and that's exactly what happened. Um, Caleb passed 52 times
That's a
on
crazy
Sunday.
amount. That's a crazy amount
52.
for a team that
Yeah.
wants to run the ball. I mean, again, he still threw for a ton of yards, but it was just too little, too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I
going
know.
back to our preseason predictions, I am at 7-10, and so far I am 3-0 through the first 3 games. I did have them
Oh,
home, but I am losing to Houston and the Colts. So
okay,
far
big
so
guy.
good. But I don't like my next pick for them because I have them losing to the Rams at home, and I think
Why don't you like that?
I'm a little concerned about the Rams now without their offensive weapons. I think they got very lucky to pull off that win at home against the 49ers over the week. Like, I
Yeah,
still don't fully understand how that happened, but we'll get to
me
that later.
neither.
Moving back to the Chargers at Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh going 3-0 with Justin Fields as the starter. Just a low scoring, ugly game as most Steelers games are. And yeah, I mean, the Chargers, I don't think like Justin Herbert turned the ball over or anything crazy like that, but they just kind of suffocated by the Pittsburgh defense. They don't really have the explosive play capability, especially down the field throwing the ball that maybe they used to have with Mike Williams and receivers in the past. So yeah, or yeah, I should say Keenan Allen especially. I think that's really what they're missing right now. They don't have a deep threat in the receiver room, and Pittsburgh was able to take advantage of that. They ripped off I think like a 47-yard touchdown to Calvin Austin, and that made Justin Fields' stats look a lot better than they truly were. I think though, so everyone
Hmm.
needs to temper their expectations on Justin Fields. I think eventually Russell Wilson will see some starting playing time.
Yeah. Most likely, I do think that that is the case. Pretty surprised to see the Steelers at 3-0. They just don't feel like they've got the offensive talent to be 3-0. Like you put them up against a team like the Chiefs, like it just doesn't feel like both of them should be 3-0 teams. But here we are, Justin Fields leading the Steelers to 3-0. It's
Yeah.
just for me, I feel like it's got to just come down to their coaching. Mike Tomlin just seems like he's able to manage this team so effectively and just they're so well disciplined. And I think that's just got to be what's keeping them in all these games.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Miami at Seattle, another ugly one here. Geno Smith playing pretty well, still having a turnover in there, but obviously this is a pretty much a free win against Miami, who's quarterbackless. Skylar Thompson got injured in this game. Tim Boyle came in, and yeah, just you're not going to win at Seattle with a backup quarterback, let alone like a third string quarterback. So a nice, easy path to 3-0 for the Seahawks. They had a really, honestly, favorable path to this, starting with Denver,
Mm-hmm.
New England, and then, Miami, but hey, no Tua. So you're totally good. I think the Seahawks will be very much so aided by this easy schedule. I think I had them going 2-1 to start the season, but if I knew that Tua was going to be hurt, then that definitely would have swayed things.
Yeah, 100%, bro. This 3-0 team is again not worthy of the
No.
title there. They beat
Yeah.
the Broncos in week 1 when Bo Nix is like making his NFL debut and is certainly like under a lot of stress and pressure. So he threw a pair of interceptions in that game, and Seattle still only won by 6. That's absurd.
No, I
That's
know.
ridiculous to me. And then of course they face New England, and again it's all comes down to their schedule. They've got super
Yeah.
easy teams to face, and then Miami. Yeah, that like if Tua was playing, this probably would have been a different outcome. But Miami looks like dog water without any quarterback back there, and so Seattle comes in and they just bird chomp their way to victory, and it's not sustainable though. It's not sustainable. They're not winning again next week.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, especially because the Lions, they've beaten 2 years in a row. There's no way they do it 3 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got Carolina at Vegas, my favorite game of the week. I said
Dude.
last week, Andy Dalton's liable for 300 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. What does he do? He throws like 320 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. I just knew it. I mean, he came in last year. He played Seattle and looked really good. I think Bryce Young's just a bust. This team looked like an entirely different animal with Andy Dalton at the helm,
Mm-hmm.
elevating not only the offense, but I feel like the defense as well. I mean, it's a lot easier when your team actually can put up points. It's a lot easier to play defense. And the Raiders walking into this game probably a little higher in their horse after being the Ravens last week. So it was a perfect opportunity for the Carolina Panthers to get some action. And yeah, I mean, maybe they'll actually be halfway decent and competitive this year if they don't ever put Bryce Young back in.
Yeah, man, you predicted this game to a T. I've got to give you props on that one. Like, that was absurd. I remember listening to it and I was like, Carolina, like really, there's no way. And then you totally proved me wrong, bro. And not only that, that you just sniped the Andy Dalton line, so that was very impressive.
He looks
The real
so good.
question, the real question is, what does this mean for Bryce Young's future?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think he's a bust. He'll definitely get some more playing time. Like if Zach Wilson got as much playing time as he did after
Yeah.
looking so bad, like I'm sure Bryce Young will probably end up getting traded to another team. He'll start on,
Hmm.
another team, maybe even the Raiders. I mean, who knows how everything shakes out, but I just don't think that as the Panthers front office, you can continue to roll Bryce out there after seeing now
Hmm.
what Andy Dalton can do with the team. And
Right.
we all know Andy Dalton's an older quarterback now. He started all of 2 games over the last 2 seasons. And yeah, he goes out and just flings the ball over the place, won by like 14 points, 36 to 22. It was absolutely wild. And I
Hmm.
think Andy Dalton has to be your starter until he plays really bad. And I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I totally am with you there. Yeah, Andy Dalton is much older. He's 36. It feels strange that like he's still producing at a high level here. I just feel like I know him as the Bengals quarterback. And that's what he always was to me. The fact that he's still around, like he was a backup to Bryce
Yeah.
Young, and now he just kind of stole his job from him, and
I mean,
now
I
he's
think he should
back.
have stolen it last year because the
Yeah.
one game where Bryce was hurt and Andy played, like Andy played really well in that game
Hmm.
too.
Yeah.
All right, San Fran at the Rams. I think San Fran was up 24-14 in the fourth quarter and they just blew it. Like I don't even know how. Like Bryce or Brock didn't have, I think he fumbled, but I don't think he had any interceptions. He was throwing the ball great. 3 touchdowns, 170 yards, just to Dwan Jennings, who, I knew it was always good, just overshadowed by Debo and Ayuk. And yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, good for the Rams to pick up a win here when everyone thought they were down. I knew the spread was crazy. I think I did have the Rams winning this game in the offseason, but going into this week, I was like, there's no way with Puka, Cup, all the offensive linemen out. There's no way. And it looked like, yeah, I mean, sure enough, even with the injuries that the Niners have with Debo and Christian McCaffrey, Nick Bosa, they could still dominate. But no, I mean, they just get snuck up on the fourth quarter, and it was honestly embarrassing to lose the way they did.
Yeah, agreed. And bro, I mean, it's really Kyron Williams who's just leading the Rams team to victory here. I mean, I'm shocked that all with all the injuries that they have that they can't find anyone else to get the ball to. But I mean, it's not a bad idea. Just hand it
No,
to the one guy who you know is going to get in
yeah.
the end zone. But it's just very unexpected that they've had all these injuries just in such a short amount of time, and they're just relying on Kyron at this point to be the saving grace for their team. Tough look for the 49ers, though. Never would have predicted them going 1-2 to start the season. And I know that it's in part because of these injuries, but they've got some work to do. They definitely need to figure out what's going on in San Fran.
Yeah, I mean, like, will ever anyone challenge the Chiefs? Like, you go into this season, oh,
Yeah,
Bengals are 0-3, the Niners are 1-2, and yeah, the Chiefs obviously are 3-0.
right. It's like who's the lock for the Super Bowl again?
Yeah, it's like it's getting so old. But I
Yeah,
think I think the Bills might be the one this year.
the Bills.
The Bills.
That'd
Yeah.
be glorious.
We'll see though. Detroit at Arizona. Game that was a lot lower scoring than I thought, with both offenses being highly capable, putting up a ton of points against the Rams. Last week the Cardinals did. Obviously, we know what the Lions are capable of. But yeah, I mean, Arizona kind of regressed back to the mean after going crazy against the Rams last week. And Detroit kind of went back to the way they usually play, not turning the ball over as much. Jared Goff played a lot better. He still had a pick, but it's all good. Kyler had one as well. And yeah, I mean, Kyler Murray just didn't throw the ball as well as he did the week prior with the perfect passer rating. Nowhere close to that this week. And yeah, I mean, Detroit
Hmm.
was able to go into Arizona and pick up a good win here, much needed win, because otherwise they would also have been 1-2.
Yeah, Detroit absolutely needs to. They needed to win this game, especially to stay competitive in the division here. It would have been tough if they already are two
Yeah,
games behind the Vikings.
exactly.
Um, David Montgomery, though, looks like he's leading this backfield. I mean, he's getting more carries than Jahmyr Gibbs, bro. And I thought everyone thought that Jahmyr Gibbs was going to be the guy for this backfield. He was taken in the first round in most fantasy drafts this year. And I snagged Montgomery in like the fifth round. And yet he seems like the guy
Yeah.
in Detroit.
I think eventually it'll even out as David
Hmm.
Montgomery wears down a little bit, but I always
Yeah,
have thought Jahmyr Gibbs to be more of the guy who gets the receptions, more
right.
of a, yeah, kind of receiving back. David Montgomery's that power, just bang
Hmm.
it in, But
Yeah,
no,
Gibbs
it's great.
definitely does. Gibbs feels that way, but
Yeah,
the draft capital, like he was not worth a first round pick
no,
based on this.
no, definitely not. But I do think he'll pick it up.
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing happened last year. He was super underutilized through the first half of the season and then had some
Hmm.
insane weeks the
That's
second half of
fair.
the season. Points where like you could start both of them on the fantasy squad and like you'll probably net like a good 30-40 points.
Yeah, that's true.
Baltimore at Dallas. I'm glad that my prediction ended up coming to fruition here because I mean it felt like a Baltimore win considering Lamar Jackson's like 20-1 against NFC teams. I mean, he is practically unstoppable against anyone outside of his conference. And yeah, I mean, Dallas just has not looked as good fundamentally, even though Baltimore, coming to this game was 0-2. They have not been great either, but they have lost a lot more in a way you could swallow than Dallas, getting blown out by the Saints and, you know, blowing out the Browns in week one, who have proven they're not very good. So, yeah, I mean, that being said, though, they almost blew it. Baltimore almost gave this game away. I think they were up like 28-7 or 28-3, and somehow Dallas made it 28-25. And if they were able to make more 2-point conversions, this game could have swayed in a different way. And that's when you know that Baltimore's got a real problem if they gave up a lead like this and ended up losing. Kind of
Mm-hmm.
similar to what happened with the Raiders the week prior, where they gave up a lead. They tend to squander leads like this a lot. Going back, a couple years ago, last year as well. And yeah, I mean, good for Lamar. It looked really good throwing the ball. Didn't have to do a ton. But yeah, Dallas definitely racked up some good garbage time stats that almost ended up being, relevant.
I know, yeah, it would have been crazy if the Ravens ended up squandering this game, like you said. They went up 21-3 and then 28-6
Right.
and
Yeah.
didn't score any more for the rest of the game and just let the Cowboys accumulate all of those points. Um, so yeah, pretty wild there, but you did have a nice pick. It was definitely a hard game to pick. It's like either the
Yeah.
Cowboys are going to go, um, you know,
Two,
0-2
2
at
at home.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Baltimore is going to go 0-3. So like one of the two is bound to happen.
Yep.
And yeah, either way, you're looking pretty surprised. But like here we go again. You've got the Ravens and the Cowboys, two of historically, like, and even last year, the most dominant
Yeah.
teams in the league, and they're now 1-2. And then you've got the Chiefs again, just 3-0. It's just the season is not panning out to what we would have
No,
expected.
I know. I mean, tough opening schedules for both of these teams, I would say. I think
Hmm.
it'll level out. I think they'll both end up making the playoffs still, but yeah, definitely not where you want to be. But
Yeah.
speaking of which, Kansas City now 3-0. I have to say their luck matters in the NFL, and Kansas City might be one of the luckiest teams in the league. Atlanta had multiple opportunities late in this game where they could do exactly what they did against the Eagles the week prior. Go down the field, take the lead. I mean, it was one of those weird scores, 22-17. The Falcons had multiple opportunities at the end of the game, and they just could not cash it in. I thought, oh my God, I bet this game. I took Kansas City -4.5, and I was convinced that Atlanta was going to end up either covering or winning
Hmm.
the game outright. But no, I mean, they just couldn't score anymore. So a nice clean cover by Kansas City, winning by 5. And yeah, just they had the chance and they just could not connect. But hey, I guess that's a law of averages because they were able to do so against the Eagles last week. So to have
Hmm.
one of those fourth quarter comebacks again is just going to be tough. But yeah, I don't think Mahomes has been great. I think he already has 5 interceptions through the first 3 games of the year. So he's definitely not looked as sharp as we may expect, but they're
Hmm.
still 3-0.
Now, how do you feel about Kirk? Because you've got kind of a bit of a larger sample size now to evaluate his performance. Are you feeling him or not so much?
I think he's got to get settled in a little bit more. This was a
Hmm.
tough spot, coming off of the win against the Eagles, which I believe was that Monday night. Yeah, that was Monday night. So you're on one less day of rest. It's another primetime situation against the Chiefs. I think he's totally fine. I think you just got to get settled in a little bit more. I mean, Drake London looks really good. Kyle Pitts still needs to get involved in the offense. I think he caught a 50-yarder in this game,
Hmm.
but not going to do
Yeah.
anything when that's all he does. So it's just, I think he'll end up being all right. Like when we look back on the season, probably like
Hmm.
25 touchdowns to like, 15 interceptions or something like that. But
Yeah, that's fair. Room to improve for sure, but
yeah.
not bad necessarily.
Yeah, I wouldn't panic. Like you almost beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
A tough opening schedule for the Falcons. You had the Eagles, and I mean you had the Steelers who are 3-0. You had the Eagles and then the Chiefs, and to be 1-2 out of that stretch is not that bad. All
Agreed.
right, Jacksonville at Buffalo, an absolute blowout for the Monday night game here. Buffalo was up I believe already by like 28 points in the first half. Josh Allen with 4 touchdown passes in the first half alone. I think he only attempted like 2 more passes the rest of the game. I think, yeah, Jacksonville may end up being one of the worst teams in the league this year based on what we've seen. Just horrible
Hmm.
showings through the first 3 weeks. They blew a 14-point lead against the Dolphins. They can't win at home against the Browns, who, only can beat them. Browns have lost to the Giants. They got blown out by the Cowboys. And then now you get blown out on the road at Buffalo. I mean, this was bound to happen. I'm pretty sure Jacksonville has won like 3 or 4 of the last meetings against Buffalo. They beat them in London last year. They beat them the year prior with a score of like 9-0. They beat them a few years ago in the playoffs. So, I mean, this was bound to kind of level out, but I was not expecting it to be such a blowout.
Yeah, neither was I. I was certainly happy to see it because I love the Bills and love Josh Allen, but man, Jacksonville is looking rough. I realized I misspoke earlier when I said that Titans and Bengals were the only 0-3 teams because we've got Jacksonville in here as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
But well, it might be time to start discussing Trevor Lawrence and
Yeah.
potential for being a bust.
I was talking about this at work with one of my coworkers today. I mean, number one overall pick, all this hype, generational talent, and he's done absolutely nothing. I feel like he's
Yeah.
already peaked. Like not last season, but the year before
Hmm.
when they made the
Agreed.
playoffs and he beat the Chargers in the playoffs, almost beat the Chiefs in the playoffs. That might
Yeah.
have been his gotten. That might be the best we've ever gotten of Trevor Lawrence, and it's really
Yeah.
disappointing because I feel like he's got good weapons. The
Hmm.
offensive line is serviceable, defense
Yeah.
serviceable, but they just can't put it together. And here, a nice, easy stretch to start the season. They really could have been 2-0 going into this game, and
Yeah.
yet now they find themselves 0-3.
Yeah. I was about to say, like, if the team was lacking talent at those skill position
Yeah,
spots, I mean, like maybe there's a little bit more justification behind it, but they're not. I mean, ETN
no,
is a phenomenal running back, and
yeah.
they've got Christian Kirk at receiver, they've got Brian Thomas Jr. Like they have the options. So it really feels like it genuinely is a T-Law problem. And for being a generational talent, that's not something anyone expected.
I was a little concerned for him when Mac Jones came in. I thought Mac Jones might
Yeah.
come in and ball, but Mac Jones on the very first play got sacked and fumbled. So it's like, all right,
Hmm.
well, never mind on that one.
Yeah, neither option's good.
All right, maybe this was the best game of the week here. Washington at Cincinnati. First game since like 1960 without any punts or turnovers. Absolutely wild game. I am just slack-jawed at how well Jaden Daniels played in this game. He couldn't miss. He literally couldn't miss. I think he only had 2 incomplete passes, was
That's
very
right.
effective
Yeah.
in the run game, had a great touchdown on, I believe it was either third or fourth down to Terry McLaurin to really ice that game, put him up by 2 scores. And that all being said, I mean, the Bengals still played really well. I thought Joe Burrow played well, no turnovers. And, they still put up 33 points against a team that is defensively headed by Dan Quinn. He's a defensive guy. They still put up 33 points on them. But
Hmm.
damn, I mean, defense for the Bengals might be in trouble here. But I just can't believe again, a nice stretch here. I mean, I know you started you had the Chiefs in there, but you had your first 4 games. 3 of them were the Patriots, Panthers, and the Commanders. Come on. And you come out of the first 3 games 0-3. You might even lose to the Panthers next week
It's
with the
possible,
way
bro.
they look. So,
It's the revenge game for Andy Dalton. I
yeah,
mean, it's
exactly
certainly a
now.
possibility. Now, here's the one thing I wanted to add to this game, bro. The Commanders are currently leading their division. I get that it's only week 3,
Yeah.
but they're ahead of the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Giants. I mean, that's absurd to me. Who would have thought the Commanders, bro, leading their division for even a single week throughout the
Yeah,
NFL
no,
season?
I agree. It doesn't make this game just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the Bengals
Yeah.
still rush for over 124 yards, pass for over 300 yards, did not turn the ball over, but on the flip side of that, they just had a lot, more field goals and just
Yeah.
was not able to put things together offensively, getting into the red
Hmm.
zone as much as the Commanders were. And The one time Zach Ertz put the ball on the ground, I thought he might have fumbled. They were able to recover it. So, yeah, I mean, good
Yeah,
for the Commanders here. I honestly am shocked that they're doing as well as they are so far.
agreed.
I'm sad about Joe Burrow and the Bengals, though. This was like their best opportunity to get the number one seed. And while I still think they'll make the playoffs, the number one seed might be out of the question when the Chiefs are 3-0.
Bro, it would be very difficult even just to make the playoffs. I don't think that's very common for teams to start off 0-3 to make the playoffs.
I still think they do. I really do, just because I mean they do have the Panthers, and we know the Panthers looked good with Andy Dalton, but I still think they win that game. Then they get Baltimore, but it's at home. Then they get the Giants. I mean, they get Cleveland. They get the Raiders
Hmm.
in there. A lot of winnable games. I mean, the
Yeah.
fact that you get Cleveland twice, I think those are two free wins for them.
Here's a stat for you, brother. Since 1990, there have been 162 teams that started out 0-3.
Yeah,
Four of them have made the playoffs.
that is crazy. I mean, that is like 2%, but
Yep,
I
that
think the
it is
Bengals.
indeed 2.5%.
I think the Bengals will be the fifth.
Hmm. That would be absurd. One of those 162 teams managed to win their division after starting out 0-3.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, honestly, I think if any, like if the Bengals were to, I think the Bengals could feasibly do that, considering the Browns and the Ravens only are 1-2, and while the
Hmm.
Steelers are 3-0, they have some tough games coming up at the Colts, Cowboys, Jets, and obviously have to play the Bengals twice. They have the Chiefs in there as well, so the Steelers have a tough schedule as well, despite not winning their division last year. And I think the division's still up for grabs.
So if you were a betting man and you were to place a bet on the Bengals to make the playoffs, what kind of odds would you need in order to be like, yeah, like I'm gonna make that bet? Like, is it like plus 100? Like, is that gonna do it for you? Like, you would take that bet
I would want better odds, but I would probably still take it at plus 100. I would prefer like a plus 200, plus
plus
300.
200?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the odds are for the
Yeah.
Bengals to make the playoffs, but I'd be curious to see, like after starting off 0-3,
Yeah.
because I mean, based on the probabilities, it's very unlikely for them to do
I
so.
know. We'll have to look that up. It's probably pretty good considering the probabilities that you mentioned there.
Yeah.
But getting into our best bets, just real quick, I'll run through what I got right and wrong. Giants Cleveland under 38.5. I thought the Tampa Bay Denver game would go over 39.5. And I mean, if Tampa Bay put up like a couple more points, like they could have, but they only scored 7. Chicago at Indianapolis under 42.5. I feel like all these Chicago over-unders are inflated. Like for next week,
Hmm.
it's also at like 41. I love the under in like any Bears game, any Michigan game, any Notre Dame game. The under is always the play with some of these defensive teams, and that just kind of bleeds into the other team not scoring a ton of points either, or themselves. I mean, obviously, teams that are offensively challenged but have a decent defense that always leans under. But anyways, Houston minus 2.5. Obviously, we know what happened there. Tennessee minus 3 did not come through, but Carolina plus 5.5, Baltimore minus 1, Rams plus 7.5, all hit. College wise, Kansas plus 2.5. They were up 28-17 with 3.5 minutes to go, and then they lost 32-28. Brutal. LSU won by 17, so 23 minus 23 did not hit. USF, they were like only losing by 5 points in the entirety of the first half, but ended up getting blown out in the second half. Iowa, Minnesota actually went over by quite a bit. So that one, yeah, just Iowa had a nice second half in that game. Colorado minus 1.5, BYU plus 7, Indiana minus 28, Iowa State minus 21 all came through. But the Arizona Texas Tech at over 60 did not. It was 30-22. And then USC, Michigan. So I guess the under in this one didn't hit. But honestly, it was close. And the fact that Michigan only had 32 yards passing, they really should have gone under. And then Cal lost to Florida State by 5 points, 14-9. So that one didn't hit either.
Not a bad week by any
No,
means,
I don't know what
though.
that all comes out to. Like, I don't know if
I
I
think it
was
was
up on
nine
the.
and ten. I think you hit
Oh,
9 and lost 10, unfortunately, but still solid week.
yeah, I'll take it. I mean, in my short bets, I went 2-1. So there we go.
There you go. You're
We're
positive
up.
there again.
There we go.
Unfortunately, my best bets have not been so great lately. Detroit, Arizona over 52.5. Really thought that this game would be much higher scoring. I felt the same way about the Eagles New Orleans game. Thought it would be way over
Yeah.
50. Thought it could have been like a 38-33 like the Bengals game, but it
Under
wasn't even
went
close.
hard. The unders on both
Yeah,
of those. Yeah.
dude, agreed. It wasn't even close. So sorry for the bad reads there. Green Bay +3 though was surgical.
Yeah,
Um,
that was huge. Should have taken
that
him on the
felt like
money
it.
line.
Yeah, that felt like an easy one to me. Like I just like a much stronger believer in their all-around talent than Tennessee. I just never a big believer in Tennessee, even when Tannehill was there. I never liked them very much. Um, Last thing to note, Bengals are +126 to make the playoffs right now. So you're taking the bet?
126? That's
Plus
it?
126. That's it.
With a 2.5% chance, basically.
Yeah, those are
That just
horrible
goes to
odds.
show how much Vegas still believes in the Bengals,
I
though.
know. I know. It's actually absurd, bro. And the Chiefs right now, -4,500 at 3-0. Yet the Vikings are also 3-0 and -194. And the Seahawks -148, also at 3-0.
I would almost take the Vikings -195. That's not horrible value if
Yeah,
you put a
that's
couple hundo on it.
few hundy, a couple units.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I honestly think for them it's a lot easier path than the Seahawks and the
yeah.
Steelers. I
I mean,
think
there's
both. What's the
go
Steelers'
ahead.
chance with 3-0?
Steelers are -150. So right in between the Vikings at -194 and the Seahawks at -148.
See, it feels like Vegas is in line with what I'm saying. Like, well, hey, like, the Steelers have a tough schedule. The Bengals, are still a really solid team. So that begs the question is what would the Bengals odds be to still win the division?
Oh, dude, I can pull that up here right now. The odds are going to be, I would think they would be ridiculous for that, but no way.
I bet it's only
Plus
like plus 400.
plus 340 on FanDuel.
Whoa!
Dude, that's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy, dude.
Only one team in history has ever won the division after starting out 1-3 or 0-3.
Vegas just know the Bengals be special like that.
Bro, there's no way. That's
I
that's
mean,
absurd. Only 0.6% of teams have ever done that historically. And the implied probability of these odds are roughly, let's see here, 22%. Their odds are saying there's a 22% chance the Bengals are making the playoffs.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Ravens are only 1-2, the Browns are only 1-2, and a lot of people thought the Steelers would be the worst team in the division, and they're the ones that are
Yeah.
3-0. Justin
Hmm.
Fields, injury history. I mean, who knows what could happen with them down the stretch?
Agreed. If you're going based on historical stuff here, you would need plus 16,000 odds for the Bengals to win their division here would equate to the historical probability of 1 in 162.
That's wild.
Plus 16,000, and yet they're at
I
plus
definitely
340.
toss a couple bucks on that if it was plus 16,000.
I think everyone would be tossing a lot of coin on it if it were plus
Yeah,
16 racks.
for
Yeah,
sure,
that's
for sure.
absurd.